Hey everybody, in today's video we're going to be switching headlights out on an S1000RR from halogens to LEDs. There is no modifications required to the headlight housings and there will be no error codes on your dashboard. And as always, if you find this video useful, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. At the very end of this video you'll find the wiring diagram for the LED decoder. Now time to make her happen, let's go!
So when taking the headlight off, it all comes actually off in one piece. I've already messed up. These four up here that I took off, you don't need to. It's these four further back. And then there's a few more in front of the triple tree. And the whole thing just pops off. Particular upgrade, unfortunately it's not as easy as just pulling the caps off the housing. The whole front fairing piece, front nose, needs to come off in order to do all the wiring so that we can retain all our stock plugs and stock caps, which is something that was really important to me in this project because I want the bike to look as close to stock as possible. Yeah, just watch it off.
So pretty much the system requires an LED decoder, which is right here and right here, in order to trick the CAN bus system into thinking that there's regular bulbs in it. So from the LED decoder we got these wires. You can follow with the light, looping around over here, up the side, and right here in this wire connector here, which is your low beam plug, is where we're gonna make the connections right there. So I'll show you what the connections look like. I have 3 wires. This is your park light wire. The brown wire is the ground wire for the headlights, and the yellow wire is the low beam wire. So what the LED decoder is gonna do is you're gonna have 2 plugs coming off of it, an input and an output. You're gonna chop those plugs off, and we'll have a diagram in the description to show you which way this gets wired. But you're going to chop those plugs off, tie the 2 grounds together and hook them into the ground, and then you're gonna cut the yellow wire, which is your low beam wire, in half, and you're gonna put the input to this side and the output to this side, and pretty much that's just tricking the bike into thinking that all of the lights are regular, even the high beam and the park lights. So once you've done that, and you have these connections made, so input, output, both grounds tied together, you're going to tape it up and make it look pretty.
Awesome. Something interesting we learned when we thought this, we did think that we were going to need a decoder for both the low beam and the high beam. What we ended up finding out was that a single decoder wired just to the low beam was enough to eliminate any flickering, along with any bulb out lights on the dash as well. So single decoder is a solution to change all of the factory halogen bulbs over to LEDs.
And the reason we decided to tape it onto the bottom of the horn like this is just double-sided tape. We did that, as you can see, so we can remove all the other panels and not have to worry about pulling on the decoder. So you could tape this to the fairing we just took off, but then when you remove the fairing, you're going to be having to deal with the decoder.
Right here, we installed a garage door opener. Now you might be thinking, that's pretty tough to get to when the panels are on and you're riding the bike. How do you open your garage door? Well, what you do is you tap in to the actual motherboard of the plug, so that, and you use a valet switch off remote car starter. And you wire that up through here. And what I did was I took the wires, run them up along here, put a little service loop in back here, and then came back up into this switch. And then for a discrete garage door opener, right down here is our button. And then when we push it, it closes. We're going to show you now the back inside the factory plug. Now we've already done all the wiring and the hookups here, but as you can see, all the cooling,
there you go.
all of the cooling fins are bent in for heat dispersion. Some of them are mashed and like it's not the cleanest, but like it works.
It's a tight headlight.
And it's a tight headlight. It fits with this, which is impressive. So we're gonna do something that's incredibly disappointing to me right now. We're gonna pull it out. Okay.
The high beam.
So in the high beam is a tough one because it's the most tight, smallest housing. So like not only do you require the fins, but you have to actually cut the factory plug off, which, you know, is unfortunate, but sacrifices must be made to keep everything else stock.
This is the plug that plugged into your factory headlight. Cut it as close as we could to save some wire length.
So, a couple of important details to notice. One, I'm not sure if you can see that or if you can focus right in on that, but there is a positive and a negative symbol on the plug for the HID. The positive wire is solid yellow, the negative wire is yellow-white. Now, what we had to do in order, like, also to fit this inverter, I don't know what that is in the box, but a component of the LED sets on here as well. What we had to do in order to get this guy in here, this part was a little complex. There's a plastic tab that sits right here, or it used to. The plastic tab right here stops the rotation of the cap, but there's more in here, so losing one, not that big of a deal. Then what you have to do is take this metal piece here that holds the bulb, and very carefully, and if you can with a pry tool or something large, put even pressure across it. You want to bend that forward, not too much. If you break this part, pretty much the whole housing is kaput. Throw it away. Order a new one.
Don't break it.
Don't break it. And then work this guy in here, jam it in there. That's pretty much as good as it gets. Similar with this guy here, you want to find the right angle. The butts that we put on here, these are female spade connectors, and they just fit right onto the end of this. They fit on there pretty tight, so we're not worried about them coming off at all.
And we just did that because it was pretty much impossible to get the factory connector in there.
Bye.
Those connectors will also fit on the factory bulbs.
Yeah. So take this guy, and with your most gentle might, jam that in there. Okay, now for the fun part, putting the bulb in. Getting the actual bulb in, obviously, is an easy part, but bending the fins in is a bit tedious. Basically, you just gotta work them in and around these channels. Some of them, if you have to, leave bulbed up behind the cap, but again, trying to create as much heat dispersion as possible is the goal there. So we're gonna get this in.
These are Philips LED.
Something to actually, let's talk about these LED bulbs for a second. Because, you know, some of the other guys on the forums were posting some other low profile bulbs. What you see with cheaper Chinese, maybe not Chinese, aftermarket bulbs, LEDs, is you get just a wafer here with LED strips. You'll also find ones that have more than one surface. and they boast more light because there's more LEDs. It's actually like makes it worse. The reason why these LEDs are just here and here is to replicate the same sort of light pattern that a halogen bulb would have. Having LEDs all over the place creates too widespread of a light pattern. And in a reflector housing, what that means is that you're blinding everyone with your low beams. It's basically a high beam. There's less light control. And they know that when they make it, so they put on little tabs that you can rotate to turn the bulb to get your best optimized light pattern. It's absolute bull. Buy a good bulb. The other part of it is you get a real good Philips LED. These will last long, and not only will they be super bright, but they will last longer than the cheap Chinese ones. And the third part is having these fins for the low profile. If you don't, any other ones that say they're low profile and they work, they won't overheat. They won't for a while, but like the LED life is going to be much, much shorter, not having that heat dissipation. And that's why these are well worth the money. And realistically, they're not much more expensive. Like if you're into this kind of a bike anyways, the difference between a $25 LED and a $100 LED is really like nothing. Okay, so we're gonna throw this in now, and yeah, we'll come back with hopefully no finger cuts. Don't forget to pull out the little bulbs and put those little LEDs in. Mixing the halogens, the little halogen parking lights with the LEDs looks stupid. Any little bulb works. We didn't have to use a CAN bus LED. These guys are the like 20 cent a bulb off Amazon. They work fine. No codes though.
Because of the LED.
Because of the decoder. The decoder seems to be like you only need one. It seems to be the fix-all. It was a really really happy accident when we found that out.
But we don't know the science behind it.
No, I unfortunately can't explain that at a technical level.
We think because it's tied into the main ground of all the lights.
There we go.
Nice silver tip. Yeah, the silver tip looks really nice in there.
There you go. That's in there. And then we'll reinstall this one.
So we showed install of the high beam bulb because it was the most difficult one with the modifications that needed to be made. The low beam bulb, no modifications need to be made. It's just a little bit tighter and you really just gotta shove it in there. And there you have it, guys. That's how you get factory looking LEDs into your S1000. Down in the description you'll find links to Lumen's site, which is where we got the H7 bulbs and the LED decoder, and that's the one you're going to be chopping the ends off of and splicing into the headlight wires. If you enjoyed this video, once again guys, we would really appreciate it if you subscribed, liked, and comment. Thanks again, see you next time.